How many bad nights' sleep does it take for you to be a little grumpy? Usually about one. We therefore ride a fine line when it comes to getting a good night's sleep, as it doesn't seem to take much to throw us out of alignment. Sleep disorders and sleep deprivation are at epidemic proportions. According to the NIH, the National Institute of Health in America, medical costs in the USA have hit $16 billion, whilst in Australia, sleep disorders are costing industry an estimated $10 billion annually. 1 in 5 Australians suffer with some form of sleep disorder. Sleep disorders and the impact of sleep deprivation is serious business. The most common of sleep disorders are insomnia, where you have difficulty in getting to sleep, or only sleeping for 2 or 3 hours, an inability to get back to sleep once you've woken up. Sleep apnea, temporarily stopping breathing and then gasping for breath whilst you're asleep. RLS, which is restless leg syndrome. This is where the legs twitch and the feeling is alleviated by constantly having to move them. Narcolepsy, falling asleep where you are and not knowing until you've woken up. There are in the region of 70 different sleep disorders that affect people to varying degrees. We are not going to go through them here, but I would like to cover the most common complaints, which are usually associated with insomnia. Here are some common problems associated with insomnia. If you have ever been diagnosed with a sleep disorder, then you will know what it's like having disrupted sleep, and hopefully are in the process of doing something about it. Here is an example of the sleep cycles that we go through when having a good night's sleep of around 8 hours. Adults in general need in the region of 7 to 8 hours good quality sleep, especially nowadays for the majority of people where stress levels are higher. And there lies the paradox. When you're stressed, your sleep is impaired. The slide shows the different phases of sleep that we normally go through when a good night's sleep is achieved, with beta being the awake state and delta being the deepest part of sleep. There are 2 types of sleep, non-REM sleep and REM sleep. REM means rapid eye movement. For those of you who have young children, the next time you put them to bed, watch their eyes for a few moments after they have closed them and are ready to sleep. You will notice that the eyelids will flicker and the eyes will tend to move around. This is REM and normally occurs about 4 times a night. The numbers represent the level of mental activity or brainwaves associated with each stage of sleep, and these are normally measured in cycles per second. So, for example, when you're awake, your brainwaves fluctuate between 25 and 13 cycles per second, depending upon what you're thinking about. The deeper you go into sleep, the level of activity decreases. You will notice that the deepest sleep is obtained very soon after initially falling asleep. After about 90 minutes, brainwave activity starts to increase as you move towards the first stage of REM sleep. This is a reason why if you fall asleep, say on the weekend, and are awoken after an hour, you can feel really unpleasant for a while, as you've awoken from the deepest part of sleep. After a short time in REM sleep, you then drift back down into non-REM sleep again for about another 90 minutes, and the cycle continues. You will notice that as sleep progresses, non-REM sleep decreases in depth while REM sleep increases in duration. This is a balancing process your system goes through as you become physically and mentally balanced, ready for what the next day may bring. If you can sleep for this length of time, you will spend approximately 6 hours in non-REM sleep and about 2 hours in REM sleep. Interestingly enough, if you're deprived of your REM sleep, the shortest part of the 2 types, the emotional upheaval can be quite severe, particularly if sleep disruption is over a prolonged period. When this happens, the brain chemistry, as I call it, gets out of balance and impacts the ability of your senses to function normally and for you to interact with the world when you're awake. Current research by Harvard Medical School has shown that a part of the brain, the frontal lobe, shuts down in sleep-deprived people and actually reduces the ability to keep emotions under control, and in fact heightens emotional responses, and this can lead to irrational behavior. This is why you can get a little grumpy, or start to look more on the negative side of things, or why you need to have a second look to register what it is you're actually looking at, or not hear when someone is talking to you. The following slide shows some of the common effects of sleep deprivation. You may want to pause the DVD for a moment and reflect on the slide content. You may notice some of the items that either yourself or your partner can relate to. After spending nearly 20 years successfully teaching people how to sleep, I've come to the conclusion that in the majority of cases, sleep disruptions and the inability to sleep is caused by excessive worry. The feeling of worry and the physiological change it produces is self-induced, as it is based upon what the person is thinking. On this basis, the good news is that the process